President Trump just confirmed that the most wanted terrorist in the world is dead.
Last night, the United States brought the world's #1 terrorist leader to justice. Abu Bakr Al Baghdadi is dead. He was the founder and leader of ISIS, the most ruthless and violent terror organization anywhere in the world. He died like a dog. He died like a coward. The world is now a much safer place.
The president said that U.S. Special Forces blitzed al-Baghdadi's compound in northwest Syria overnight, chasing him into a tunnel where the president said al-Baghdadi detonated a suicide vest, killing himself along with 3 of his children he had dragged along with him into that tunnel. CNN senior international correspondent Nick Paton Walsh is live for us right now in Erbil, Iraq. And Nick, the president gave quite a vivid account of this raid.
Absolutely. At times, the rhetoric was quite sort of crude, in all honesty, the notion of Baghdadi dying like a whimpering coward. He talked about how there were some frightened puppies in some cases who were fighting alongside Baghdadi. A vivid picture certainly painted. At times it's felt by a president who was almost in awe, possibly, of the US security machinery unfolding around him. He referred to how he got to watch it, and it was often as though you were watching a movie, possibly at times revealing a little more than his security chiefs would have liked. He was at pains to say they would not say from which base, he said a port, from which base this was launched, but they had gone in and out the same way, and also suggested that the flight time was 1 hour and 10 minutes. Now, a basic assessment of that in helicopters means you're probably looking at maybe somewhere in the Mediterranean or possibly even somewhere in Iraq. But a lot of details seem to emerge here that seem to be on the edge of the comfort zone of what his officials may necessarily have liked. But also interesting, too, to point out how he referred to Turkish airspace being used. That, of course, is the nature of how close they are to the border there. But also it pains to thank Russia. He said Russia was great, but also how the Syrian Kurds gave us some information that turned out to be helpful. A president certainly there trying to seem, by use of the first person consistently, part of that operation, while at the same time, clearly, I think, in awe of how it unfolded around him, Jake.
All right, Nick Paton Walsh in Erbil, Iraq. Thanks so much. Stay safe, please. President Trump says U.S. forces spent 2 hours inside the ISIS leader's compound collecting intelligence, including, the president says, about future ISIS operations. Joining me live in studio, the top Republican on the House Armed Services Committee, Congressman Mac Thornberry. Congressman, thanks so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So you heard the big news, the U.S. operation, a raid in which Baghdadi was killed. What's your reaction?
Number one, I think that was the most effusive I've ever heard the president in talking about our military and intelligence professionals. They deserve all the credit. It is remarkable what they do. Secondly, on that point, it was important not only to get Baghdadi, but to collect the information there. And hopefully we can follow up very quickly on some of that information, which may give us the location of other ISIS operatives or identify plots that are underway. And I guess the third point I would just say is, as you were just discussing with the panel, we can never do this stuff alone. We have to have allies and friends, whether it's information or whether it's help in flying over an area. We cannot do this sort of thing. We cannot protect the American people all by ourselves.
Right. And so I guess with that in mind, there would seem to be consensus from the 3 counterterrorism experts on our panel, bipartisan, that the success of this mission kind of undermines some of the president's recent actions in northern Syria, given that, A, they don't believe that this could have happened without the U.S. already there, even though obviously they flew in, and B, just the idea of the presence of the U.S., and B, that alliance with the Kurds was so important, the Kurds saying this was a 5-month operation, and obviously a tremendous amount of intelligence was gathered, and it seems likely that it was from Kurdish intelligence forces. Do you agree? I mean, do you think that this underlines the need for the U.S. to stay in northern Syria?
Yeah, I think and it's important that the president apparently has decided that we will maintain some presence in eastern Syria around the oil fields. So that does several things. One, prevent ISIS or Assad from getting the oil revenue, but it also gives us a platform from which to continue to watch and pressure ISIS. So one of the things that's happened in the last 17, 18 years is ISIS in particular, even more than Al-Qaeda, has spread a network around the world. And we have a handful of special operation folks also around the world who are watching them, keeping track, and can take action when necessary. But we can only do that with partners. Whether it's Africa, Middle East, Southeast Asia, we rely on partners to help gather that information and, when necessary, act on it.
One of the other things that we've learned about ISIS in the last couple of weeks is, according to Jim Jeffrey, the special envoy to Syria and for the Global Coalition to Defeat ISIS, there have been a number of ISIS terrorists that have gotten free since the president's announcement of the withdrawal of U.S. forces from northern Syria. So this is obviously a great achievement in the fight against ISIS. Al Baghdadi was the founder, the spiritual leader of ISIS, but there are also this new threat of 100+ ISIS terrorists out there. Senator Bob Menendez, who is the ranking Democrat on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, he says that the release of these ISIS prisoners is a clear and present danger to the United States. Do you agree?
Well, we need to have more information about exactly who they were. So there are top-rate, very dangerous ISIS operatives who have been prisoner. There are also lower rung kind of soldiers. They are much less dangerous. But again, it goes back to the point, it was important not to pull all the way out of Syria. Having some presence there gives us a greater ability through intelligence gathering to keep track of these individuals and other ISIS operatives. Because, as you pointed out, it's a big deal to get Baghdadi. And I think the president deserves a lot of credit for authorizing the raid. If it had gone bad, he would have gotten the blame. But that does not mean ISIS is defeated any more than getting bin Laden meant Al-Qaeda was defeated. We've taken something valuable away, but you still have these networks, you still have people who will take the place of anybody we remove, and they continue to work to attack America. One other point, there was a lot of comment about, well, we wouldn't expect Baghdadi to be in Idlib because we thought Al-Qaeda was there.
Right.
What happens in some places is terrorist organizations that you think are rivals can actually cooperate in certain situations.
Is that what happened here, or you suspect it?
Well, in that area, there were signs of Al-Qaeda and ISIS cooperating in a way we have not seen before. I just mentioned that to highlight the danger to terrorism. We're not done with this threat. Just returned from Afghanistan a week ago. There are dangerous terrorists still in Afghanistan plotting against our homeland.
Including ISIS.
Including ISIS, and especially ISIS. So we've got to keep the pressure on. This is a big deal, but we've got to keep the pressure on.
And lastly, what do you make of the president's, he painted a very vivid picture of al-Baghdadi dying a very cowardly death, which I don't doubt for one second. A lot of these terrorists are cowards. But it was very vivid. He talked about him crying and whining, detonating a suicide vest, killing his own 3 children while he did so. Again, I don't doubt that that's how he died, or that he killed his own children. These people are monsters. Yeah. But I wonder if there's any part of you that's at all concerned, because now there is, of course, a question about what is ISIS going to do in response to this move, in response to perhaps the president's rhetoric. Does that concern you at all in terms of galvanizing or motivating ISIS terrorists?
Oh, it probably makes me a little uncomfortable to hear a president talking that way. But again, Baghdadi was the inspirational leader for an ISIS network across the world, from Africa to Southeast Asia. If you can take a little of the glamour off him, if you can make him less inspirational, then there's a value to that for all of these folks who are on their computers or in these networks looking to attack. But you're exactly right. ISIS will seek to do something to show we're still here, we're still relevant. So the United States is going to be tested in the days to come, and as you know, one of my big concerns is we've only funded the military for about 25 more days. The dysfunction in Washington is translating into doing real damage to our military, who we depend on and are so proud of for things like this.
And the men and women at the tip of the spear, they deserve better.
Exactly.
Congressman Mac Thornberry, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate your being here.